Hey everybody, this is Nate Smoyer, and you're listening to the Tech Nest Podcast. This is the show where we sit down with the leaders in real estate and technology to find out what they're doing to transform the way we buy, sell, and invest in real estate. If you've got an interest in real estate and technology, stick around. You're in the right place.
Okay, we've got a great show for you today. We've got the CEO of a company called Carbon Lighthouse, Brenden Millstein, and I'll read you their mission and then we'll go into a little bit what they're doing. They say, on a mission to stop climate change by making it easy and profitable for building owners to cut carbon emissions caused by wasted energy. We talk about a lot of different things in this episode. Specifically, though, we start off with, and I just went right after it, isn't fighting climate change anti-business? Because that's the narrative that I have seen over the years and continue to keep seeing is that, hey, you either have to pick climate or you have to pick business. And I think Brenden has really found a unique balance of being very pro-business, thinking of the mindset of building owners who are financially motivated and finding solutions that can combat climate change. And I think it's really cool. It's a huge undertaking that they're going after on their mission. I mean, it's just the biggest mission I think you could probably set out after. But anyway, I think you're going to like this one. We also talk about a handful of other things throughout the whole episode in multifamily, some trends, and even some down to the technicals of how this actually happens inside of hotel buildings or luxury and condo buildings. So I think you'll like it. Kick back, enjoy the show. How are you?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing great. This is a lot of fun. So we're live streaming on Facebook for those of you who are listening to the recording. And I just tagged Brad and sent it to him, say, hey, you got to listen to this interview. So let's see if he actually jumps in on it. But we're having a fun time here, Friday afternoon, Friday evening, depending on where you're at. As always, I want to start with the basics. Go ahead, introduce yourself, let everyone know who you are and what you do.
Great. I'm Brenden Millstein, co-founder and CEO of Carbon Lighthouse, and we make it highly profitable and easy for commercial real estate investors to cut their carbon footprint.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here, and I wanted to first, you kind of already said it, but I wanted to repeat your mission back to you, and then we're going to jump into. I just want to we're going to hit the nail on the head right off the bat. Oh man, it says unable to stream our meeting to Facebook. I knew that was going to break. We're going to keep moving here anyway, and I might fix it as we're going. So the mission is on a mission to stop climate change by making it easy and profitable for building owners to cut carbon emissions caused by wasted energy. Okay, the first question, isn't caring about the climate anti-business?
No, and this is a great question, which I couldn't be more excited to answer, actually. And one of the reasons I'm so excited to answer this is how much the world has changed in the past decade. And I don't mean just by cause or social nature, but I mean by economics and technology. And I think if you had asked this question in 2005, it was much harder to find ways that were profitable to reduce emissions. Whereas now, probably a quarter to a third of our customers, we can make their buildings completely carbon neutral and do it while significantly increasing their profit with no out-of-pocket cost and where they don't have to take any financial risk because of the contract structure. So it's totally different.
So maybe help me understand. Why do I see, because I hit you with this one right off the start. I didn't pull that out of nowhere. It's not like I invented that. I see this narrative over and over. So why is it that that's the narrative that's run with?
Sure. Let's talk about some price changes. So solar power in 2010, the cost of solar power has come down since then 90%. Right. And wind has come down about 60%. So percents are not very tangible. So let's talk about a sweet pickup truck. A sweet pickup truck costs, call it $45,000, right? So if that comes down in cost by 90%, that means what in 2010 cost $45,000 now costs $4,500. In other
That's true.
words, a really sweet pickup truck went from pretty expensive to incredibly cheap. And a pickup truck is very tangible, and people love pickup trucks. So if that happened, everyone would know about it. Everyone would talk about it. Energy efficiency, solar, wind, these aren't nearly as sexy as a pickup truck. I think solar panels are sexy. So I'm maybe not the mass market there on that one.
Yeah,
but the point is that this crazy price difference, price change, cost change happened. And if you're using numbers that are even 3 years out of date, like if you're using numbers from 2016, you're hopelessly out of date. So anyone who looked at solar in the past 10 years has totally irrelevant information compared to if they looked at it even 2 years ago or 1 year ago. So the world changed very suddenly and dramatically, and it is now very profitable to cut your emissions. And that's new compared to 15 years ago.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, and I appreciate you going into that. And obviously, this is something that you have had to think about and look at to make the numbers work. So fill in the blanks here. I understand the mission and what you guys are going after, but what's the actual service and product that you offer to the market at Carbon Lighthouse?
Sure. Yeah. So let's start with the contract, because I think that's the easiest place to cut through all the marketing hype. So we charge a fixed monthly fee. In exchange for that fee, we guarantee we'll deliver a dollar amount of savings that's above a certain threshold. So to put real numbers to this, for say a hotel or something, we'll charge $100,000 a year. In exchange, we guarantee we'll deliver $250,000 a year in savings to the hotel.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a good deal.
Why isn't everyone just signing up for this? What's the friction? What's keeping them? Is it the old narrative that they don't renew the look? Is there, is it a high up front?
Yeah. So first off, everyone is signing up for this. So the relevant statistics here are we've grown faster than Moore's Law for 9.5 years now.
Wow.
So we are now up to 125 people in 4 different offices and have eliminated the emissions of 8.5 power plants.
Wow.
We have made our clients, I think at this point, about $250 million in profit. So it's big money. And 90% of our clients that have completed work with us in one building take us to additional buildings in their portfolio to do work. So we're growing. I mean, we have been engineering constrained on growth for the past 2.5 years now. So a lot of people are signing up for this.
Wow. Honestly, that's far more than I thought it was going to be. Those are some really impressive stats.
Yeah, thank you. It's less than we were hoping for. Climate change hasn't been stopped yet, but so far so good. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, keep going. You're doing great there.
Okay, so people are signing up. There are a lot of reasons people aren't signing up more. And the reason I started with the contract structure actually is because that part is very important. And the way the energy efficiency industry has been going for the past half century is not how I just described. There is an awful lot of selling that happens around buy this product, it'll save you money, but the contract deliverable is the product. Or hire us as consultants will save you money, but the contract deliverable is a report.
This is why it says on your website, we are not consultants. We don't sell equipment, software, or dashboards.
Yes, exactly. Yep. So here's a bit of fun irony for you. We are a clean energy company. And when we were founding the company, we were looking around the world trying to figure out who had changed the way energy was used in the whole world in just a couple of decades. Because that's all we have left to stop climate change. And the answer to this is not solar, it's not wind, it's not energy efficiency, it's oil and gas. In 1865, oil was basically non-existent. The first commercial oil well had been drilled 5 years before. And from 1865 to about 1885, oil went from nothing to a dominant force changing the world. And one company, Standard Oil, had something like 85 or 90% of total global oil trade flowing through its pipes. And Standard Oil is what changed the way the world used energy in just a few short decades. And say what you will of oil companies in general and Standard Oil in particular, which did plenty of shady things. They did two things incredibly well. The word standard was a quality standard. If you went to any gas station in the world that was a Standard Oil gas station, you got the same quality of product. And the second thing was they didn't sell you a pipeline. They didn't sell you a drill rig. They didn't charge you for a test well. They sold you oil. And when you go to a gas station, if you bring an empty gallon bucket and you fill it with what the machine says should be a gallon and it's half full, you have someone to sue. And that is the contract mechanism we were employing with Carbon Lighthouse, which is we're not selling equipment, we're not selling maintenance. We have built an incredibly sophisticated patented software system. We're not licensing it. We sell a dollar amount of energy savings to clients.
That's fascinating.
It was really nerdy. I'm glad you thought it was fascinating.
Here's the thing that makes sense. And I appreciate the approach because this is where, like you said, cut through the marketing hype on it. And obviously I'm a marketing guy. I'm a little bit of a hype guy. So I'm okay with that.
That's why we're on your podcast.
Well, see, what I picked up from the website, and here I'm like losing my thought of where I was going with that. Well, shoot. I just kind of lost what I was saying right there. We're not, I got to work my way back. It was on your approach of how you guys sell it. Oh, yeah. It's because there's got to be, we have to recognize, and I think you recognize this, is first off, the public sector hasn't found a solution. Or can we even get them together to come to an agreement? Because it doesn't matter even what the solution was. Anything. Could they all agree on something? And I think we all know the answer. No, it's just not going to happen. We're seeing that over and over. It doesn't matter how simple or complex the problem is. Okay, so the private sector, those who care, want to take their stab at solving what they see as a problem. And so then, okay, how are you going to do it? Well, there's got to be incentive, and that's what you are bringing to the table. It sounds like for the first time into the largest asset class in the world, commercial real estate. Am I understanding that correctly? And how that works is if there's financial incentive, then it can happen.
You have that exactly correctly. And to tie that back to your very first question, which is it profitable to do this if, is capitalism something that can help save the world and stop climate change? I think the answer is very strongly yes. And what we figured out how to do here is by making it profitable for building owners to take action and making it easy to do so. We don't need to win hearts and minds. We don't need to agree with anyone. We don't need government utility incentives or tax incentives or regulations or anything like that. And building owners can and do make decisions very, very quickly when it is in their financial interest to do so. So capitalism, say what you will, is incredibly efficient when the financial incentives are aligned. And that's what we're taking advantage of here so that we can become large enough quickly enough to stop climate change.
We're not going to get into politics today, but your friends or people around you must constantly be confused on which way you vote.
I'm delighted to hear you say that. It is very much part of a big tent strategy.
Yeah. So good on you. I think it's cool. I get the same confusion, so it's all good. So I would love to hear. So maybe you can describe to me who is the ideal customer that should be picking up the phone, calling Carbon Lighthouse, and say, let's get to work.
The ideal customer owns as many square feet as possible of office buildings and hotels, retail, industrial. In the U.S., so we don't work outside the U.S.
Okay.
And is someone who is very focused on making money and thinks about the world in the terms of risk and reward and financial returns.
Is it because energy is deregulated in the U.S. that's where you focused?
No, it's because we can take someone's money who's not at the table. So let me explain.
Say that again.
Yes. Okay. There's a climate reason and a financial reason we focus on energy. So we focus on buildings because in the US, commercial and industrial buildings are responsible for about 30% of carbon emissions total. And that number is true globally as well. So it's this enormous section of global emissions and US emissions. So that's why we focus on buildings. Energy is obviously responsible for that, but one of the reasons our business model has been very successful is that we are competing with someone for money who's not at the negotiating table. Namely, our source of revenue and the source of money for clients is taking money away from power plants. So when we say we're going to charge $100K a year in exchange for saving you $250K a year, the client's netting $150, we're netting $100.
And you're the only one at the table. The power plant ain't there.
That's exactly right.
Oh my gosh, this has been such a passive, mindless sale forever. So they don't even have to earn the business. There's nothing to earn. It's already put in place.
Mm-hmm.
Set it and forget. That's the ultimate rotisserie engine right there. The set it and forget it.
Yes, and actually a rotisserie engine is that's a good analogy because the key thing there is that the chicken continues to spin, right? You're not actually walking away and nothing is happening, which is a really important part of our technology. So our software is monitoring the data coming out of every building. And as soon as there's a problem, it flags it for one of the engineers on our energy performance team. And that's because we are guaranteeing the savings, we're taking the financial risk. If savings are less than expected, we write a check. So our software is monitoring the data. Yeah, it's good software.
Does anyone offer anything comparable to that?
There are companies that will guarantee savings from lighting only, but there isn't anyone that does it for the whole building, and we're targeting the whole building.
Right.
Which is relevant too, because a lot of firms have already done lighting at this point. And then secondly, lighting, it's just such a small piece of the pie. The savings from it aren't as meaningful.
This is what I've heard about with, people trying to figure out the smart hotel and it's a scenario that you only think about if you have to. If there's, 400 rooms in a big, nice hotel, when do you turn on and off the heat? Well, never. You keep it on because no one wants to walk into the room super cold. This is the difference between a nice hotel and the one alongside the highway. Motel, right? The motel you walk in, it's blizzard cold or it's blazing hot, and you quick run over to whatever they've got in the wall and you turn that machine, you crank it full volume. But if you're like me, I'm guilty. I've done this. You turn on the AC, you're going to stay there for 2 days, and it stays blasting. Well, you're only sleeping there. So then you leave the room so that when you come back, it's really, really cold when you come back. So this sounds like some of what you're doing is trying to find those ways of optimizing more than just the light bulbs, but the whole way through the hotel. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
And so then the software how is your software tying into those buildings? Like, are there sensors everywhere or?
So there's a lot of things going on. So for a big hotel, we might put 500 sensors in it. So it's a huge amount we get on average 1,000 times as much data as a typical building management system or other firms doing stuff with energy in buildings. Wow. And 1,000x is easy to say, but for context, the difference between the square footage of a typical house and the Empire State Building is about 1,000x. Or a more enjoyable analogy would be going the other direction. So your height, I'll call you about 6 feet.
Yeah, that's right on point. Right there it is.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you were 1,000 times shorter, you'd be roughly the height of a fruit fly, which is fine. You could walk up a wall because the tiny little, what feels like texture would look like a ladder to you. So
it's true. I've seen the movie The Tick.
Yeah, there you go. So 1,000x is easy to say, hard to do, but it's really important because it lets us make very accurate forecasts as to what will happen in a building and also do deep optimization that isn't otherwise possible. And so that's a fancy way of saying we turn things very slightly up and very slightly down every few minutes. So to give an example of this, so in your 400 room hotel, that unit on the wall is connected to a water system that's going to a boiler or cooling tower. And so what we can do is enable, the fan in your unit to turn very slightly higher, lower, which, you in the room wouldn't notice. And that has some impact on how much water we need to pump through, which has some impact at the boiler. And net, that'll save 25%. And then 10 minutes later, as people move around the building and the weather changes, the system makes a new automatic adjustment like that. So it's kind of like getting your car tuned up, but automatically in every 10 minutes.
Got it. Okay. So this kind of makes me think of like, a lot of people have experienced this now. If you drive any newer vehicle driving down the road, that, they've baked into the computer system to shut off the engine at red lights. And then the moment you hit the gas, it's kind of like the golf cart, which kind of funny that the golf cart had gas saving measures before everyone's cars. Like we've figured out with golf carts how to do this, and only now have gotten around to doing it in cars. But you push the gas and then it automatically ignites the engine again, and you're off to this, off to the races. Slight delay, obviously, but I mean, at the savings, you're talking about going from a lot of vehicles are now almost all of them are over 30 miles a gallon. And I remember having a Geo Metro, like that was a sacrifice you had to get, for 30 miles a gallon. Now you can actually drive a mid-size SUV. So you're taking that kind of approach, putting the software behind it and applying it to the large, buildings. That's just, what's the market? What's the total addressable market for that? Like, how big is that?
Yeah. So back to the analogy.
That's some big math. That just seems like a big number.
Yeah, it is huge. So back to the oil and gas analogy, where oil has oil reserves. We look at the world through the concept of efficiency reserves. And so this is the dollar amount of value that's trapped in buildings. And so in the US, the efficiency reserves are about 100 billion per year. And at today's technology and prices, namely what we can do with our products and services right now, we could get about 50 billion per year of that to split between ourselves and building owners and building occupants.
Wow.
So that's just the US. So it's the US is maybe 15% of carbon emissions. So
that seems like a high percentage. That's still those are big chunks. Those aren't small numbers, really. You're looking at the gross number, I suppose that's a pretty big number.
Yeah, yes. My concern is that there's 7 trillion a year spent on fossil fuels. So if we capture all of the 50 billion a year, we're just getting started.
Wow. What's the expansion plan in international? Is that in the cards, or is that further down the line?
Both, but license the software we use internally to other engineering firms in other countries.
I see. Very cool. So walk me through, I'm curious, what are some of the markets that are taking to this right now? Because I'm just imagining, and this is my total guess, is that it's all luxury. In my head, I see luxury and I see major industrial. Those are the two buyers I'd see right ahead in my head. But you tell me, because I want to hear if I'm right or wrong.
Fascinating. I'm so curious. Before I answer, why do you say that?
Well, because large industrial, it's all about the unit economics. So it's incremental improvements on space, because really what you have is you're making money on space. So, sure, I guess in some like, plants with like, assembly lines and things like that, you'd actually be going like full on like meta to another degree of like how you power your machines and things like that. Sure. But I just think that big industrial makes a lot of sense. And then with luxury, it's something that I've been trying to find, like, to crack the code of almost everything that's awesome and new and really game changing in tech tends to come in at luxury. And it's not because luxury is the only thing that's cared about. It's because it has to be economically viable. And until it can be so either readily available or cheap, it's very difficult to start downstream versus starting upstream. Especially if you have to reinvest to build, and it takes some time to really get that, that going. So that's, I don't know, that would be the thing that I would assume, but you tell me. Now I'm really interested. Tell me. What's the answer?
Yeah, so this is why Tesla started with an $110,000 Roadster, and has slowly over time worked its way down to a $35,000 Model T or Model 3.
Yeah, Model T.
Well,
They should do that.
right?
They bring the Model T back as an all-electric.
Tweet out Elon right now.
No. I mean, there goes their safety records, but
well, it could be more like an armored Model T. Okay.
So is that true? Is it luxury and large industrial?
No, it is not. So
okay.
The key difference here is that we started extremely cost effectively. So the whole point of using sensors and controls and data and software is that we can drive 10 to 30% whole building energy savings without replacing any major equipment. Wow. Just by adding sensors and controls. Sometimes we have to swap some valves, but a valve's the size of your fist or something is pretty cheap. And because there's no major equipment, it's really cost effective. So we have a huge range of buildings. We absolutely have luxury, but we also have Class C office buildings. I think our oldest building was built in the 1890s.
Whoa.
And our newest building was built in maybe 2016. Tesla is in fact a client, so we definitely.
I did notice that. I saw that on the testimonials page. Good on you guys.
Yeah, and they take their building engineering as seriously.
I'd imagine
as their car engineering. Yeah. So that was a very fun project. But so there's a huge range, and then in terms of product type, it's probably call it 65% office and maybe 25%. Hospitality, and then another 10% industrial and retail.
Got it. And do all of your clients, do they all have the solar roofs too, or?
No. So
Sorry, my phone was ringing there.
Yeah.
It came up scam likely.
Nice. It's probably a scam. We're very financially driven. And so where solar makes sense, we do it.
Okay.
But where it doesn't make sense, we don't. And so maybe 20% or so of our clients are in areas where solar makes sense without tax benefit, without incentives.
Yeah. And I know that the taxes on some of the solar stuff also gets kind of confusing. I've only heard some of it about what California does with certain houses. And, obviously some of I think my biggest frustration is, I was introduced a little while back and walked right away from it the moment I heard it. And this is like a year and a half ago. It was a company looking for someone to help grow their lead gen business. And it was for some of the solar installations in California. And it was the lease arrangements that just were, I don't know if you know anything about these, but these are types of lease arrangements where basically people were stuck with the solar on the roof in overpriced lease agreements. They couldn't ever extract there was no back-end value that they were promised. It was like you're selling, like you're like, it's just garbage stuff. Anyway, I don't want to get caught up on that. Let's keep moving here. So I wanted to go into and ask, like, what are you doing that's helping you expand? So, I mean, you listed some numbers. I always try to get a sense of how a company is doing. I look up their Crunchbase to see like some of their press, how much they've raised. It looks like you guys, from that perspective, I was like, okay, they're doing something serious here. What's been driving that growth? Yeah,
that's a great question. The repeat business from clients is enormous. So that 90% number is really important. So the 90% of clients that have completed one building with us have taken us to additional buildings.
Wow.
And so that's been a key driver because a lot of our clients are very large. So Goldman Sachs, for example, is a client, and they have a lot of buildings. And
there you go.
We have a lot of clients like that.
Do you have the government on board yet?
They are a little slower to move than, say, Goldman Sachs, shockingly.
I'd love to see, a reduction in our deficit. Just give them a call. Say, hey, government, we got a project for you.
We got you. We got you.
Let's make that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they've been fast. Swig Company, for example, is a privately held, family office that has 10 million square feet. So they're larger than many REITs, real estate investment trusts.
Wow.
So, the repeat business, I would say maybe 90% of our sales effort goes towards winning new customers.
Okay.
And about 80% of our business comes from existing customers taking us to more buildings.
Wow. Good on you guys. I mean, I guess if you're talking about it's a smaller pool of potential customers when looking at all things real estate, but this is a more connected pool of customers. And, it's not like you're talking about what lawnmower you bought over the weekend. You're talking about major initiatives saving significant dollars. And if I hear somebody tell me about, they saved, and we can talk about in a specific example, but looking on the site, I was in the testimonials or the success stories as they're listed, I'm seeing success stories of up to $1 million that building owners are going to save over the lifetime. Here's what looks like a pretty old building, the Wilson Meany flood building.
Yeah.
Savings of about 300,000 or 20,000 or 20 cents per square foot. And there's over 300,000 square feet. So yeah, like stuff like this, like tell me, and I was like, I know this building now that I'm looking at it. Yeah. The one in San Francisco. I know this building. Okay. So yeah, I mean, like fill me in, like give me an example of one project you guys took on, and it can be this one, but it can be another of, you signed a contract, and then also how much you're going to save that building.
Yeah, sure. So let's use a building we did with Swig, which is on Miracle Mile, so on Wilshire Ave in LA.
Okay.
And Class A office building. It's a large building, so on the order of 500,000 square feet or so.
Okay.
And I think maybe a little less, like 450 or something. And we were able to save them, we're saving them about $230,000 per year.
Wow.
So the $230,000 per year here is really relevant, particularly because of the way buildings are bought and sold. So buildings, when they're sold, are valued like a perpetuity. So all of the profit coming off the building gets a 10x or 20x multiple on it, depending on where the building's located. So that particular building's location, it gets not quite a 20x multiple, but something like a 16. So our $230,000 a year is worth about $3.5 million for that particular client in value. And so the upside for building owners is spectacular. If we work in just 30 buildings like that, we will have boosted Swig's portfolio value by $105 million.
Yes, because overall you're at a real level, you're impacting the net operating income of that building.
Yeah.
I'm only seeing the full picture now, because I mean, some of these projects are probably bigger than just buying on cap rate, but obviously they're, these are syndicates, these are partner deals, these are family offices. So internal return rate or rate of return is important to them. And all this improves when you're significantly reducing the fixed expense on the building on an annual basis. So whether they need to refi the building to go buy something else, whether they're trying to exit the building and improve how much they can exit at. I mean, all these things I'm seeing the full picture now.
You got it. Yeah. And we've had a number of clients actually list us and cap the value from our projects at disposition. So Carlisle Group, for example, mentioned like they sold the building shortly after we had started delivering NOI there. And we're able to cap some of that. Ellis Partners actually listed us in their offering memorandum. I believe Dostart Development did as well.
Wow.
another firm. This was amazing. I don't expect
That's great exposure too. Like now you're getting in the listing memorandums and the financial documents, like, performance improved by. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah. Oh, I think our greatest victory, there was one building that sold before we had even implemented, and they were able to cap the value from the project. So this was a building in Oakland. So it's a particularly hot market. I don't expect everywhere in the country would be like this, but just having the opportunity to boost NOI in a way where the new landlord doesn't have to take any financial risk was enough for them to cap the value.
Wow. That's pretty awesome. I can get on board with that. I love it. Find me some ways to do that. No money up front. Let's get the savings and up the value. Let's jump into, I kind of alluded to this. So you guys have raised a little bit of money on this so far. From what I'm pulling from Crunchbase, about $67 million. Is that right?
Interesting. They're pretty close. We're at 73.5.
Oh, come on, Crunchbase. That's what I get for paying for my annual pro membership. I'm sending it back. I'm up in the ante. I'm going PitchBook.
I don't think PitchBook has this number correct. You're better off with Crunchbase there.
All right. So this right now, there's and it's been the topic. I haven't had a chance to take a look at it, but Brenden Wallace just did a presentation about everything that's happening in fundraising. CRETech publishes, the weekly this week in funding, reports. And I don't want to just say like the market's being flooded with cash, but I talk about this on every show because it truly is, a large amount of venture capital coming into prop tech and real estate tech. And I think everyone's got a little bit of a different take. And I'm curious, why do you think now is the time where venture investors are seeing the light, so to speak, investing in real estate tech?
That's a great question. I don't know that I agree that they are.
Oh, see, this is why I asked. I do assume everybody agrees with this, but go on, keep going. This is good.
Well, let me be more specific. It's not that they're not investing. I am concerned that they are repeating their mistakes from Clean Tech 1.0. And so Clean Tech 1.0 was when the venture community first got really excited about clean energy. And they saw the same massive market potential we see, $7 trillion per year spent on fossil fuels.
Yep.
And they got very excited to try and disrupt it. And they invested in OptiSolar and NanoSolar and all sorts of high profile crashes where early investors lost billions of dollars. My concern with the way prop tech is being done now, and I think Brenden Wallace is a very good exception to this because he actually comes from a real estate background. His LPs are all real estate organizations. But the investments being made, I'm concerned, are being made without enough focus on the end use customer and the very real and significant challenges that building owners are under pressure to respond to. And so I think there is a lot of investment happening, but I am not certain that it is in companies that will still be with us in 5 years.
Got it. That is, I will say that is definitely the most unique answer we've had to that question. And I love it. And I appreciate the independent take on it and not just the market's finally caught up. I do really appreciate that. Well, let's shift. We're going to jump into my favorite segment of the show. I call this For the Future.
All right.
And this is where we get to ask each guest who comes on the show to give their best predictions based on the following 4 questions. Brenden, you ready to play?
I am ready to play.
All right, let's do this. Question number 1. What does Carbon Lighthouse look like 1 year from now?
Great. Okay, so our largest constraint in 2019 was the fact that we can only work in California, Hawaii, and the DC through Boston corridor. So we had literally hundreds of customers asking us to work in their entire portfolios across the country. And in 2019, we could not. In 2020, I am very excited that we are going to be able to offer value across clients' entire portfolio, so long as it's in the US. So for our customers in Canada, sorry, you're still going to need to wait. But in the US, a year from now, and actually less than a year from now, we will be able to offer useful services that boost NOI and bust carbon everywhere in the country.
That's awesome.
So that's prediction number 2. Prediction number 1.
That's the first. I was going to wait. Did I miss the first one already?
It was very concise. Okay. Prediction number 2 is we hit a huge tech milestone just before Thanksgiving of this year. And without getting into too many technical details, our software and databases are unified now in a way they haven't been in previous years, and in a way we've been working towards since 2014.
This is part of the secret sauce.
This is definitely part of the secret sauce. But what the unification lets us do now is we can split up our current offering into tons of different bite-sized pieces that all pull from the same underlying core software. And so this will let us offer many multiple products so that landlords and building owners who are looking for different things can all get what they are looking for. So tons more ways to boost NOI and cut carbon, all stemming from the same Clues software system, the Carbon Lighthouse unified engineering system.
Wow. There's a whole lot going on in there. There's some big stuff. I don't want to try and pull the secret sauce out of you here. I mean, I kind of want to have you spill the beans, but I also don't. So I want to be like,
I won't.
And now it's already live. Too late. All right. Question number 2. What's the housing market look like 1 year from now?
Ooh. Okay. Hopefully you are getting this answer a lot. Otherwise, you are talking to a bunch of people who are ridiculously overconfident or just straight up.
Wait, hold on. So you know the answers I get? It covers the entire spectrum.
Okay, good. That's great.
I'm getting like every other week, I'm like, man, sell. And then the next week, I'm like, do everything I can to buy. And then the next week, I got to get rid of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So I think if you average your answers, you have something closer to the truth, which is we have no idea. So we're in a really interesting spot right now, right? The economy is still growing. Interest rates.
Jobs report just came out, said we created more jobs last quarter than expected.
Yeah, exactly. So like things are good, but also there's a million flags that things are about to be bad.
Auto loans on average are like 6.5 years, $300 some a month. You know, student loan debt ballooning. The number of student loans going to forbearance is increasing. Mm-hmm. Credit card, personal lending is way above where it should be. Wages have not outpaced the rate of borrowing. Yeah.
Inverted yield curve. If you're looking for a factor predicting the recession, you can go find it, no problem. And yet we've had this for years now. This isn't new. So at the end of next year, one of 3 things can happen. The economy could still be growing. Maybe it's growing less quickly, but it's growing, and interest rates are still low. And in that case, you would have wished you bought as much as you could. Or interest rates have spiked, the economy is contracting, and you wish you sold as much as you could. Or somewhere between those two. So
fair enough.
I am the only person maybe who has given you an accurate prediction of the future. However, it is useless. Next question.
That's all right. Hey, it's all good. All right. Question number 3. What's one industry trend you think will continue, but you wish would go away?
Okay. Here's the trend I think will continue that I wish would go away, which is there are not nearly enough companies like us. And part of this is because clients aren't demanding it enough. But the energy efficiency industry has been abysmal at meeting its forecasts and actually doing what it says it will do. So here's a fun pop quiz for you and all of our listeners here. So there's a study done. It's 2,000 buildings, 6 years of actual utility meter data from before and after the projects.
Okay.
And the authors of this study, and these are good professors. So MIT, UC Berkeley, Chicago.
Yeah, I know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Like these are very good statisticians.
Yep.
So they got all this data, the actual utility data, and they got the predictions that were made. So what the customer was sold on, what the promised savings would be. So here's a question. For every dollar that was promised, based on actual utility data, how many dollars or cents were delivered?
35.
Hey, you're pretty good. 25.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe I was so over the top.
No, you weren't. You were amazing. So for every dollar promised, 25 cents were delivered. This is, can you imagine?
No.
This is like your bank telling you, hey, the savings account has a 4% interest rate. Oh, actually, we only give you 1%. Sorry.
This would work for me if it was 25 cents to the dollar every year following. If it's 25 cents on the original dollar every year following in perpetuity, I'll take it all day.
Yeah. So this is a problem that everyone kind of knows about and no one really talks about. And the way we can tell everyone knows about it is all of these firms, private equity, real estate investment trust, family office, all of these firms would be excited to return, say, better than 10% unlevered to investors. And that is like a 10-year payback. And yet all of these firms have a 1 or 3 year payback requirement for energy efficiency. And so this is actually right in line. If you have a 3-year payback requirement and savings are a fourth of what's expected, well, that's a 12-year return, which is actually almost exactly in line with what REITs are yielding investors. And so everyone knows this fact, but all customers need to do to resolve this is to say, put in the contract the dollar amount of savings you are promising me. And if we don't get what's expected, you're writing me a check. And Carbon Lighthouse remains the only firm that does this, much to my frustration.
That's amazing, by the way. I hope you make a big deal out of every time you have to write a check. Like
we do.
Like don't announce it, right? Like, you don't want to run through the streets yelling like, we were wrong and we paid our customer. But at the same time, it seems to be working for Domino's.
All right, you've now likened us to golf carts and dominoes. So it's not exactly the quality standard or like brand prestige we're going for. But at the same time, everyone loves golf and Domino's is nothing if not consistent in honoring their promises. So,
oh, there we go. Let's take all the good without the bad,
Yeah, see, this is why the marketing team doesn't let me out in public.
No, it's all good. I'm just I'm a simple guy. I've got, one of our things here at Avail is, we think of like the every person, the every man, the every girl, like landlord, and the common person. So it kind of fits perfectly for me. I just things in golf carts, you know what I mean? So if it works for that, I can get it, so. All right. Number 4 here, the final of For the Future. What's one thing you believe will dramatically change or fade away in real estate as a result of technological advances?
Yeah, this is a great question. And actually, I'm going to tie it back to your very first question, which is technology is dramatically changing the ESG landscape in 2 ways.
ESG stands for?
Environmental, social, and governance. So it's the acronym for pretty much when publicly held companies are trying to be held accountable for doing the right thing while also providing shareholder returns.
Got it.
So, and we're particularly focused on the E part of this, the environment. So first, technology is making environmental returns measurable. And this has 2 profound implications. The first is that environmental returns on a financial basis can now be held to the same standards and underwritten the way you would underwrite a financial return. And the second is that it means greenwashing is going to go away. So greenwashing or pretending.
Is that just saying like you're green?
Yeah, but not actually doing something.
Can I say this? And I don't want to be putting you in a position to say something bad about anybody. So you can decline to answer if you want. Is that what LEED is?
Ooh, it's a good question. I think LEED has some challenges when it comes to energy in particular. LEED gets made fun of a lot for giving points for bike racks. But there's a lot of really great parts of LEED.
Okay.
So it is actually phenomenal to use recycled materials, to be located by public transit. And as much crap as they get for bike racks, I biked to work every day for 2 years, and I loved that there were bike racks. That was really important to me.
Yep.
So people make fun of that, but it's actually really helpful. So I think LEED can improve on the energy part of it, but the rest of the standard has some
what they need to do is just personally introduce you to all the LEED certified buildings that exist.
Yes, that's correct. That's
Come on, LEED, get on the program. Let's do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so the second main way, so greenwashing. So if you can actually measure the CO2 impacts of things, which we can now, you can't get away with greenwashing the same way. So commercial real estate investors, and we're already seeing this, particularly those who have European LPs, but it has plenty of steam in the US as well, are needing to take actual action to do things that are environmentally good. Mm-hmm. So that's the first set of changes, is that things are now measurable. And so that gets rid of greenwashing and requires companies to actually underwrite the return the way they should be responsibly. The second thing from technology that's going to dramatically change the environment for commercial real estate goes back to your first question. And this is that prices and costs have come down so quickly, so much, that it is now substantially profitable to do the right thing for the planet. And what we are seeing is that we are routinely providing not just above market returns, but very substantially above market returns, like 2x, for example, in exchange for doing things that cut carbon. So we've eliminated the emissions of 8.5 power plants, and we have made our customers about $250 million in profit. And that's just the very beginning. And we have a lot more change on that.
Anyone like me who grew up not far from a power plant, I grew up less than 10 miles, I think, from the Limerick power plant, Pennsylvania. And then later on in life, I moved probably about 3 miles down the street from 3 Mile Island.
Okay.
So when you say 8 power plants, I have a very distinct vision in my head of the cloud machine that I once grew up near. Because that's what I thought the nuclear power plant was. That's where clouds were made. See, you can't tell me that's not where clouds come from. I know it. I've seen it.
Well, if you are 3 blocks, that's correct. That's where your clouds come from.
Yeah. So I have a very distinct vision or visual of what that means. I think that's impressive. So that's pretty cool. And I appreciate you going into those details. All right, we're going to wrap up. We're headed into the last 3. This is so that our listeners get to know you a little bit better. The first one is, what are you reading?
Ooh, what am I reading right now?
Yeah.
All right. So I am reading a somewhat dry book I'm finding helpful, which is the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. But I'm only just into it. So I'd actually rather summarize the book I just read recently, which was High Output Management, which was written by the founder and CEO of Intel, Andy Grove.
Oh, okay.
That was phenomenal.
High Output Management? I should probably read that. Sounds good.
It's great. Yeah. It's good. He has lots of fun stories.
All right. Question number 2, who are you learning from?
Ooh, everyone. Absolutely everyone. Just one of my favorite things in life. And I generally have the attitude, if I can't learn from whoever I'm speaking with, I have not had nearly enough coffee that day, and I am doing things wrong.
You either had a lot of coffee today or are really bored, because we've been on the call here for a little bit.
And I have learned a lot. I've learned how Facebook works. What are you talking about?
That's right. It's the first time you were on Facebook in 8 years. I'm glad to bring you back.
Me too. Thank you, Nate.
You're welcome. Okay, last one here. What inspires you?
I think that is similar to the who do I learn from, which is I am inspired by a lot of people. I am inspired by my wife very much and the immense positive energy and resilience she brings to every challenge she has had to overcome. Mm-hmm. I am inspired by my co-founder constantly, but Raphael's earnestness and humility and just depth of empathy for everyone around him is extraordinary. I'm inspired by every single person on my executive team who I have the joy of interacting with every day, and each person in a different way. I feel very blessed in this regard, in that I'm surrounded by a team I could not be more humbled by and more honored to serve and to learn from.
Very awesome. Brenden, thank you so much for your time hanging out with me on a Friday night and sharing about what you're working on and really the results that you guys have got going on. I can't wait to hear. Send me the press release when you get the lead announces they're going to partner with you exclusively.
Absolutely, we will.
Before we head out, if anyone wants to get in touch with you directly or learn more about Carbon Lighthouse, where do they go and how do they do that?
Yeah, they should email, I think at this point, probably info@carbonlighthouse.com, or if it's press, I think press@carbonlighthouse.com.
One of those or the other, yeah.
Yes.
Try both of them,
Yeah. Or actually, no, I know what my team would want me to say. They should go to our website, sign up for the newsletter in the pop-up box that shows up, and then use the contact form. That is what my team would like me to say.
Carbonlighthouse.com. They do have a Facebook page, LinkedIn, Twitter, if you're into that. Yep. Yeah, the contact on Crunchbase is info@carbonlighthouse.com. So there you go. Info Excellent. Is cool. A good one there. That's a true CEO when you can focus on all the bigger business items and you know you've got teams handling these details. Good on you.
Thank you. It's probably the single best thing I and Raphael have done is just get amazing people at the company and get the heck out of their way and stop meddling.
Yeah, so for people listening on this, if you need a good PR team, before the show, Brenden said, like, man, he has no idea what they're doing because he has good people. They're taking care of everything for him. So if you're trying to figure out a good PR team, there's probably one there. I don't know. Talk to him for that reference.
Yeah, the takeaway should not be to poach our PR team, by the way.
Yeah, don't poach his PR team. It's all about like, hey, just find out how they got a team to do that for them. I don't know.
Yeah, you can hire them as a consultant.
There you go.
It's an additional service.
It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate it. We're going to cut the podcast and then the Facebook feed here for everybody who's watching. But thanks so much, Brenden. Let's keep in touch. Root for you guys. Excited to see how you guys continue to move forward.
Oh, thanks so much. You too, Nate. And really enjoyed the discussion.
All right. We'll see you.
All right. Take care.
Okay.
Now's when I hang up immediately, right?
No.
And then I ghost you for like 20 years.
Hey, it might happen, All right. We're off Facebook. That was great. I think that went well. It's funny that the first recording, right when I was about to go live, it was like, do you want to try this new? And I was like, yeah, I'll try the new one. And of course I should have known that was going to drop. So I had to kick it back up again. It's all good, but very cool. Appreciate, really do appreciate your time. I've got my bike right here.
Nice.
Got the little street cruiser. Now, I got to admit, embarrassingly, that my commute is 0.9 miles.
It's great.
But, we haven't, I sold my car when we were living in Nashville. We went down to a one-car family. I will admit, it's nice to save gas, but also it was it was a financial incentive. We didn't have to have two. Yep. But we haven't had a car since living in Chicago. So I look for the bike racks everywhere. We look for the walking, routes and all that. And it's great. So
we sold our second car when we moved to San Francisco.
Yeah.
Because parking was such a nightmare.
If you do are able to, architect your life around not needing it.
Yeah.
It is so much better. There's quite a few people. I want to, anytime I get an opportunity, if I can, add value here, I want to make sure I can. Maybe have your team like go through some of my past episodes. I can't help but believe there's got to be some sort of overlap or, high level discussions that you could have with some of the past guests. I mean, we've had, Torstein from CrowdStreet, his customers could be your customers because they're large syndications, CityVest, Reonomy, some of the.
Did you just say Rihanna?
Reonomy. No, I haven't heard of Rihanna got into.
There, Nate.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a handful of companies, that I think potentially there's something there. Obligo, which does New York, they do rental deposits, but they're working with building owners so that the building owner no longer has to require the rental deposit so that they're more appealing to renters moving in.
Yeah.
Yale Fox with Rent Logic. Rent Logic is a New York based, so only New York, but they do building ratings. So based on performance of the building, everything. And then they grade it just like a restaurant. They have a third party, nonprofit board that's associated to the company, basically. The board is people who are not just at the company, though. It's independent other people. And they use city complaint records and then maintenance stuff and all this other stuff to give building grade.
Interesting. That's cool.
Yeah. So, and then obviously he's selling right to the owners. And his value prop on that is like, not only do tenants now believe that they're moving into a A or a B grade building, but if you're a B grade building, now you have something quantifiable to say you are. And if you wanted to get to an A building, what's the added value of being an A building in Manhattan? So, yeah, I think that there's some...
That's cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah. I think there's some clear overlap. As far as I'm concerned, I feel like there's clear overlap. I can't imagine you guys ever leaving New York City, though. Like, I don't think you could ever actually implement the whole city. It's so big. It's just so many buildings.
So there's 10,000 high-rises in New York, which is a lot, but we're already in about 700 buildings. So there will come a time when we are in substantively every building in Manhattan.
That's amazing. Good on you guys. That's huge market penetration. Yeah, it's huge.
So far, so good. There is a lot left to go to stop climate change.
Yeah. Well, good on you guys.
We'll get there.
I think it's pretty cool. I love the approach. I think it's a win for everybody. So maybe one day the public sector will figure that out. That's possible.
Yeah, we'll get them there. In time.
Hey, I appreciate your time. I'm going to get this over to my audio guy this weekend. We should probably have this up by Monday.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, Nate, thank you so much. And looking forward to keeping in touch. And I'll have my team go through and figure out if there's people we want intros to.
Cool. You bet.
Yeah. And that may be 6 months. Right now, we don't have a channel partnership, like a marketing partnership. So we need resources before we can do that.
I know that problem all too well.
Yes.
I know that problem all too well. Totally right there with you. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Very cool. Right. Yeah. We'll appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Yeah. You too.
All right. We'll see you.
Happy holidays. All right.
Yeah. Thanks.
Well, that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening to the TechNest podcast. Hey, don't forget you can get on the email list so you never miss an upcoming episode. That's technest.io. That's technest.io. Get on the email list. Go to the App Store, whether you found us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, wherever you found us. Leave us a 5-star review and share it with your friends. And if you've got a guest or someone that you'd like to recommend, or if you think that you'd be a great guest on the show, hey, send me an email, nate@realteampanda.com. That's nate@realteampanda.com. See you guys later.